Hey there, kia ora. Well, I'm loving this energy. Natural justice is on its way now. How justice became just us to those who elevated themselves in a godlike delusion used a monetary system that caused gross separation and division. Words and spell casting in their legislative construct, along with violent enforcement, note the meant part of that word, as that means mind, forcing through the mind, through policy enforcement agents, hiring gang members trained to defend a bunch of words that governed or controlled people. And that is the police, who have all those Masonic emblems attached to their uniforms. The pen became mightier than the sword because people complied to being used by the controllers for perks and benefits, and wielding swords and separation was no solution at all. The pen then imprisoned until enough of us learned a remedy of the expression of non-consent. I'm so happy. So many of us have done that, and it has been pouring through the field, and it's working. During colonisation, native people were bribed and hunted out to turn on their own tribes and gain status that separated them from their hearts and own families, money and pistols in the place of love and care. I have had visions for decades of a time when equality, freedom and true natural justice would come. So how could this possibly come to be? Only if the monetary system could be disabled and converted into a system that only gives to what is in alignment with the will of source and nature. I believe this is in progress now. It's not through governance or a controlling system, as many are led to believe. Governance has still been controlling many minds as it was designed to do so. A part of the remedy is coming through the care and brilliance of someone who has the know-how and momentary guidance of source to have made the necessary changes to the machine that has been driving the inversion in the first place. I have listened to the latest Global Intelligence Agency report and feel confident that these changes are underway, especially as I have already seen it, but just didn't see how. Way to go, Kimberly Gogan. This is not a saviour thing, as it is up to each and every one of us now to align with our purpose and co-create in ways that return us to organic consciousness. Everything that will be required to live our true purpose will come and support our lives. Those who went too far into the ways of the inverted world will need to change and align to participate, and those who don't will be disabled from any further harming and controlling. And this is what I have seen for myself. And now it's really being confirmed through the GIA report. It's like we're in alignment. This is beautiful. This is where compassion comes in, and maybe a teacher for those who compromised and harmed. It's about lifting up, no longer tearing down. Love lifts up upon intuitive guidance. It doesn't mean that we have to suddenly be nice to all those people who harmed and abused us. We'll know what we know from our hearts in the guidance. What is natural justice in that moment? Our hearts work it out, not our heads. So deceit is ending. We each have our purpose in restoring natural and organic consciousness here, and this is a choice as well. Unconditional love has no expectations. In 2017, from Malaysia, I experienced huge life changes that started a chain of events that got me changing my ways. I was doing some global grid work and felt guided to intend the end of sex trafficking in that area and beyond. It's incredible because my own intentions for the healings meant that I had to go and clean up my own life in all of those parts. And now I'm grateful. I knew at the time that was it. It's just been so intense and so difficult. But, with that intimate source connection, I've made it through, we've made it through, you've made it through, we're amazing. So after doing that grid work, I was confronted with remembering a massive big aspect of my life where I had been used in ritual abuse, mind control and organised abuse. Ramkoa. I don't choose to call it satanic ritual abuse because it's a big scary word, this whole satanic thing, and the whole Satan thing I've discovered has been very much related to the machinery. So I'd prefer not to call it that. It's been much more of a CIA program, or it's something that was designed by the Babylonian priesthood way back when they were putting astrology into place over rituals and sacrifice, and with the introduction of Gregorian calendar marked around their version of a Jesus. Let's put it that way. My experience is, in meditation, I was experiencing my star family, and their message was that I needed to raise my vibration. I had been invited by my Lyran family onto their ship. There was no door. I was instructed to enter through the wall of the ship on and out breath, and when I tried, I couldn't get through. It's so interesting. Psychiatrists tried to call all my memories and everything drug-induced psychosis. That's what they were trying to do because of my use of medicinal cannabis. However, in Malaysia, you don't do that. I was absolutely straight. No alcohol, no nothing, in my own consciousness, and these experiences were happening. Anyway, this communication from this Lyran family, so beautiful. This was when they telepathically communicated to me that I would not be able to get into that ship until I raised my vibration. I also acknowledge now the necessity to change my perceptions. I am in that process. So with getting through the ship, now I'm seeing that, we've been tricked about the nature of matter and time and space, and this is where I believe I received that guidance at that time, and am finally coming round to realise the illusion, and we all are going to. So I know that I might lose some people's attention now for disclosing this, and I'll think woo, but this is just my experience. I'm explaining it, take it, leave it. And it happened, and just as it happened pre-COVID, that I was communicating about the necessity of the end of government. Like, sometimes you see things before other people see things, and it's just too way out for people to accept, and that's fine. Other people get it, they start to tune into it. It's just even something you can listen to and leave, and then things might come up later and you go, oh yeah. It's the idea of communicating is to actually have us liberated and what we have been perceiving about matter, about space, about time, because we're actually radically going to change, because all deceit is leaving. However, I also know that we will be radically adjusting our perception of matter, time and space, and that is a part of our freedom that is coming. At this time, it led me to make a momentary decision to leave my partner and go on without money nor home. It was getting way too uncomfortable anyway, and it was an in-the-moment decision. It was quite magical, actually. I went outside. It was a sunrise in Malaysia. It's amazing. You get the chanting from the mosque at the same time. All the cicadas start going, and the birds and the life and everything comes up, and the sun and the moon was in the sky, and I just got this absolute validation. I had done the right thing, even like it seemed like such a risky choice. Anyway, my body was suffering with the weight of cellular memories that had not been able to clear due to programmed amnesia. When I arrived back into New Zealand, homeless, with nothing, going into the hospitals to try and get some relief because of terrible head and neck symptoms. So, years that included homelessness, medical abuse, and mistreatment followed. I have only just found out what some of my physical conditions are about. There is structural damage to my cranial bones, palate and jaw from violence experiencing as a child. The trauma has been trapped in my cells and my fascia tightened and has caused all kinds of issues that have been very disabling. However, with some assistance from real caring, proficient natural health practitioners, we are onto it now, and it's up to me to do the self-healing, clear the trauma, and alter my perceptions towards life and health. It does involve detecting the clashes in frequency between my interfacing my inner and outer world, which I see that's the role of the fascia and the light. I am fascinated by the role of fascia and light in this process. So the programming in the inverted world would be to accept my body is packing up and to die. And I'm stubborn here. I have seen myself vibrant and healthy, and I'm choosing this possibility. It's about breaking through old beliefs. My parents used to always, I don't know, I think as a child I had a natural healing ability and I believed anyone could heal. And it's come up a little bit here and there. Sometimes people have healed with my hands, but I'm not in a place to do that at the moment. I need to heal myself. But these were things that I knew, but were always shut down in me. And also I believe that my programming was also shutting me down from believing those sorts of things. Another example, because these are things that happen, and they may happen to you, and it's good to have an understanding of it so that we can break through it. But someone I have since distanced myself from decided to play around with an Anunnaki being and proceeded to suggest that I accept my health condition and surrender to it, and that defending children was arrogant. She had nursed her husband who had accepted his terminal diagnosis and who he did let go, but he had the comfort and care of the process. I did not have anyone, and for me it wasn't an option, but it tore me up inside somewhat until I could see what was really going on, because there was times where I didn't know whether I was going to make it through. There were times I was just at the bottom, and I couldn't see my way up, but then my connection with Source would come and I would be reminded and I would carry on. But I was entangled by this whole thing with this Anunnaki presence, which I have just in the last week sent back to Source for transformation. That was the process. That's what I was guided to do. That I was entangled by it, and I had to find my way out of the grief of losing a friend. It's really annoying because every time I did get a friend, every time someone would come on board with me, if they're not really, really aware, something like this would happen. It's like in the Matrix movie when anyone could turn into an agent, basically. Anyone on the street and turn against you, you know. It's that kind of thing. But I am glad the machine's reign is ending and these kinds of manipulations end. There was another example, my closest friend at the time who had turned and been used to harm. She was also my ACC therapist and had embodied Baphomet. We were in connection. She went down to the South Island. She saw this guy. She said, "Oh, I've embodied Baphomet." I noticed her whole personality had changed, and her actions then. She decided she was going to do this tough love thing on me, and I was in semi-paralysed state, and it was really, really, really cruel. And I went into a psychosis, and I ended up in hospital and received more medical abuse and psychiatric labelling. Yeah, so that's what, just those tactics that tried to keep you under. Those are old things. They can't happen anymore. No more harm will be allowed to happen like this. Isn't that great? So the medical system overall, as it does include well-meaning people, is a part of the inversion. Sometimes we can safely navigate our way to have some needs met, but overall it's another death and decay industry. So what I'm saying here, sorry if I sound a bit muddly, I have this stuff going on in my head and it does muddle me, and I'm actually doing my best to get my words out and my communication out. So thank you for staying with me if you do. Thank you for caring. I know there's some people out there who really care, and I actually really care about you, and that's why I actually say all this stuff. Okay, so what I was saying there is that the medical system overall is a part of the inversion, even though there are really well-meaning and good people in there. And so I don't want to put those people down, but the system overall has been definitely a part of the inversion. Not that I'm putting it down, it's just an observation. Anyway, we are going to be remembering and relearning how to self-heal and maintain our vessels, especially after all that has been put in place to poison, kill, and dumb us is released. While the inversion was still holding strongly, we have all been under pressure to maintain life and vitality. It dashed the hopes and dreams of so many of us, except where the direct heart connection with Source came through intermittently. That connection is going to become absolutely direct, according to Kimberly Gogan. And I trust that, actually, and I do discern it for myself, and I embrace this. It's like homecoming, and we will each know our purpose and learn how to live in this way. Like, I listen to other people's points of view, I listen to things, and I learn, you know. I don't necessarily agree with everything, but it often... It helps me remember other things. It helps me to connect many, many dots. And I actually listened to someone talking about the more organic templates and things of the moon. And I do trust that this was actually quite correct what she was saying. But it flew in the face of what David Icke and Ishmael Perez, who I never trusted right from the outset. Both of them I don't, for good reason. I never trusted those men, and I found out that they were actually, like, what they were saying is true, but that they were talking more about the overlays and the controlling of the moon. And so it was actually really refreshing to hear about the organic consciousness of the moon, especially when we're coming into organic consciousness, because of my experience that a lot of these rituals were done on moon cycles. I've had quite a bias against the moon. So actually, I could actually start to love the organic aspect of the moon that is there. And so I'm very grateful to have heard this beautiful woman talk about it. Her name's Indigo Angel, and she has been on the Grace Space with Claire, who I really find as soul family and I love and respect, and she's put some really amazing content out there, and she also interviewed me, and I was just so grateful for that opportunity. Yeah, so like, for me, authenticity is one of the highest expressions of love, being authentic, and authenticity is also the ultimate in self-love, because it means you're not afraid to be yourself, and that you'll say things because of love, even though it might be hard for people to hear. I try to say it in the way that it's, you know, that it with enough love and care as I can. But sometimes these things, you know, when you're talking about people's religions and things like that, it is hard. So the old ways of good and evil consciousness will end. The religions that entangled people with false gods will break down, and only love and pure truth will remain. Just remembering that it's actually the word and the word spell casting that made all of these things possible, and that so-called holy scriptures explain a lot of these. I mean, they've all been manipulated and twisted and turned around, and they contain a great deal of truth. But overall, look at where we're at. We've had these eons of blood sacrifice because of these monotheistic religions and false gods, which, you know, a true, I don't even call it God, but Source is unconditional love, whereas these things were always punitive, judgmental and vengeful, and I struggle to see why people can't see that, even though I went through Christianity time myself and was a pastor's wife. So yes, I do understand it, but now I struggle to see why people cannot see that. We've got to go deeper and deeper and deeper into our hearts and be unafraid. Yeah. So those who chose to harm, hurt, and to be greedy to the detriment of others will no longer be able to do so. We will be actively correcting this inversion, and I feel joy and fun is a part of it for those who refuse to comply to governments as much as we possibly could. Oh my gosh, what the heck did I say there? We will be actively correcting this inversion, and I feel joy and fun is a part of it. For those of us, we refused to comply to governments. We maintained a level of not stomping and trampling on others. We lived by our hearts and love to the best of our ability. So get ready for some fun and joy. It will come. We will lead ourselves. All outer governments will go, and life will flourish in direct connection. We will have our perceptions massively adjusted as a part of the process. Our hearts will lead us in each now moment. It's just going to be like a natural flow. It used to be this way. I remember other lives that were not part of this construct. And I remember like the way that we flowed and went with ease. It was just so dynamic and so high vibration and so loving. Yeah, I might even be able to enter Lyran spaceships, you never know. But there will be no more striving and trying. It's just self-love, self-trust, a glorious toroidal connection with Source and creation itself. Balance and harmony is happening. It's happening through us. And so much love.